Hi, my name is Robin Wong, and welcome back to another episode of Robin Speaks. This is a video podcast series where I talk about random photography topics. In this particular episode, I want to get a little bit more up close and personal and share my life stories. I want to talk about how I got involved with photography, why I decided to quit my engineering career and become a full-time photographer. There is a lot to talk about, so let's do this. Before we go too far, let me clarify that I'm not here to give you a career advice, to ask you to quit your job and pursue your dream or chase your passion. No, I'm definitely not qualified to give any career advice. So why am I doing this? I'm merely sharing my life story, and I think everyone has a story to tell, and all the stories out there are unique, and I thought some of you would be interested to get to know me a little bit better. And I haven't really shared all these stories before. I've talked about me being an engineer and joining Olympus, Malaysia, and after that becoming a full-time photographer, but there were a lot of details that I have not reviewed before, so I thought it would be really great to sit down here and talk to you guys a little bit about my life story. Before I went to study in Australia to get my engineering degree, I need to sit for an IELTS test, International English Language Testing System. It is a qualifying test for university students, especially international university students like myself. So I went in to sit for the test. There was a speaking component. Guess what? The interviewer asked me this question: Robin, tell me about your photography. It is so funny because, now hear me out, right? I only started doing photography in university, not before. So when I was asked that question during the speaking test for IELTS, I had zero knowledge on photography. My family didn't have a camera. I've never played with a camera before. I didn't know anything about photography. So you know what happened next? I begged the interviewer to change the topic. I said, please, I had no camera before. I don't know anything about photography. Can we talk about something else? I know this was a bad move because I was told before that never to ask to change the topic. Whatever questions that is asked, you have to answer it right there. But if I were to talk about photography with zero knowledge, I knew I was going to fail the test. So the interviewer was really kind. She changed to a different topic. I couldn't remember what the topic was now. This was more than 10 years ago. And I got band 8. Band 9 was the maximum score, so I got band 8 out of 9. So I did really well for my speaking test. So why am I telling this story? Because I thought it would be really funny. Imagine if I were to migrate to Australia today and sit for another IELTS test and another interviewer asked me the same question. Hey Robin, tell me about photography. Oh my goodness. I would flip. I will say, where do you want me to start? So there you go. Maybe during the test, when I was preparing for my university intake, it was a sign, it was a hint of what's to come in the future. Who knows? I went to Perth, Australia and did my civil engineering degree in the University of Western Australia. It was a fantastic place. I made a lot of amazing friends. Some I still keep in touch until today. I had so many fun memories. It was such a wonderful time of my life. I had a lot of first experiences. Perth was such a beautiful, beautiful place. And I saw dolphins for the first time in my life. The sad part is I did not have a camera in my first semester. So I thought to myself, wow, I'm seeing all these things for the first time in my life and I don't have a camera to take photographs. I wanted to share all these experiences with my family and friends, and I couldn't do that because Well, back then we don't have smartphones, not like today, everyone has a camera in their hands. The only way is to use an actual camera, and not everyone has a camera. So I thought to myself, I must work hard. So I did work as a student part-time to earn a little bit of pocket money, and I bought a camera. Finally, it was a compact camera. It was a Kodak, point and shoot, very basic, no manual controls. So I got a camera and I started to take more and more photographs. My photography started with the intention of me documenting moments and memories during my university study days. Not too long after I got the camera, I started my blog. The same blog that you see me using today, robinwong.blogspot.com. It was the same blog that I've used since 2004, 2005. It has been more than 15 years I've been blogging on that platform. Of course, you will not be able to see my earlier entries, the earlier blog posts. I've hidden them in the archive. I don't think I want to share too much of my private details. But hey, it all started there in Australia with that compact camera that I got. I thought a blog would be a great place to share my experience, my photographs with my family and friends. Slowly, that photography, which innocently started out as an intention to capture memories, evolved into some kind of an obsession. I didn't see it coming. It happened so gradually. I didn't know why I was so gravitated towards photography, why I got so obsessed. It just, I don't know, I guess it was just so fun taking photographs. Whenever I was using the camera, I really enjoy myself. All my problems, all my troubles, all the issues that I have as a student back then, they just disappear. I put all my attention, my effort, my focus into capturing that photograph. And I guess as an engineer, or back then still as an engineering student, I was doing my best to capture the best possible image, or to get the best out of the camera. Although it was a very limited camera, it was a compact point and shoot, 4 megapixels, very limited controls. There's nothing much I can do. But I remember I did everything I can to get the best results. I bought a tripod to make sure that there's no handshake. I played with the long exposure. I minimized the ISO numbers so that I don't get high ISO noise. And I remember I really tried everything I can to learn as much about photography. I experimented a lot. It was my early years of obsession, and I just got more and more drawn into the world of photography. I think that was the start of me becoming a photographer, although I was still a civil engineering student. During my final year studies, I decided to specialize in geotechnical engineering. I learned more about soil stabilization, foundation design, piling, tunneling. So I did a lot of modeling and analysis for structures that's below the ground, or how the soil interacts with structures. I learned Plaxis, which is a finite element software, and all this became really helpful in my career when I started working as a geotechnical engineer later on. I also remember during my final year, I took some really interesting subjects. I studied structural dynamics, where I learned more about wind and earthquake design for buildings, designing the building to withstand earthquake. And the most interesting part I remember was explosives. I learned about explosives and how explosions interact with structures. If you detonate the bomb in mid-air versus if the bomb exploded on the ground, how will it respond to the building? And these were really interesting. I remember my course mate, for his final year project, he built a wall, a masonry wall, and he brought the wall into a military base, then detonated a bomb there, where he studied and calculated the response of that experiment. I thought, wow, that's really cool. If I were to go back and redo my final year project, I would probably have done something similar. Anyway, I graduated as a civil engineer, I got my degree, and I came back to Kuala Lumpur in 2008, and I started working as a civil engineer. My compact camera died on me when I arrived in Malaysia. I thought, hey, it is time to move on. The compact camera served me really well during my university days. Now I'm starting a new chapter of my life. Perhaps it is a time to get a new camera. I wanted to get a compact camera still because I believe that we don't need a DSLR to capture good photographs. It is not the camera that decides how good your photographs are. You know, compact camera is good enough for what I do. I was not a professional photographer. There was no need to spend so much money to get a professional camera. I was deciding to get a higher level semi-pro, I don't know, the super zoom camera, something like that, until my friend Jason decided to give me a 45 minutes call to try to convince me to get a DSLR. Oh, Jason. Jason tried to convince me to get between two models. It was a Canon 400D or the Sony Alpha 200. I remember they cost around 2,500 ringgit, which was way more than my budget for a compact camera, which was around 1,000 ringgit. More than twice the budget. So I was a little bit hesitant to jump into the bandwagon to buy a DSLR. Jason was one of the earlier bloggers in Malaysia. He used to run a blog, Jason Mumbles, who uses DSLRs. He was the early adopters of DSLR, and you can immediately see the difference that the image quality makes. Once you have a DSLR, your image is just cleaner. It looks so much better. And I don't know, to me, like I said, I was not planning to invest that much money into photography. I did not see a future in photography back then. It was just a hobby. But somehow that 45 minutes call from Jason, Jason, thank you so much for being so persistent. It managed to convince me to consider getting a DSLR. I'm very sorry, Jason. I did not go for your Canon or Sony suggestions. I decided to go for Olympus because comparatively, the Olympus was much cheaper. I got my first DSLR, the Olympus E410. Yes, I know I've mentioned that E520 was my first DSLR many times because the Olympus E410, I bought it. I owned it for about 3 months before it was stolen. It was a very painful memory. Perhaps I will talk about this incident in the future, but it was stolen. I remember I lost not just the camera and kit lens, I also lost another pancake lens, the 25 f2.8. After that, I decided to get the E520 to replace the E410. I was really fortunate to join the largest geotechnical engineering consulting firm in Malaysia. There were a lot of amazing engineers in that company. I learned so much, and the people there are so kind to teach me, and I had so many opportunities to grow as an engineer. I got involved with really cool projects and some really large, important projects in Malaysia. If you are in Malaysia, you will know the MRT project. I was involved with that, although I contributed like a tiny grain of sand in the grander scale of things, but I was still really proud to be involved. I was explaining the content of the soil, which was dug up from underground on the MRT excavation sites to explain those to potential tunneling contractors. Then I got involved with the PNB 118 tower, which is currently still under construction, which will be the tallest building in Malaysia when it's completed, the PNB 118. And I was involved with the subsoil investigation. I was on site drilling down the ground to more than 100 meters depth. We were trying to find the bedrock. We couldn't find it, but we hit the hard layer somewhere around 30 meters down. We continued drilling, and it took more than a week to reach more than 100 meters. And we believe back then, this was about, 10 years ago, we believed that this was possibly the deepest borehole ever done in Malaysia. If that's still true, I don't know, more than 100 meters. If anyone has done more than 100 meters borehole in Malaysia, please let me know. I would love to talk to you. It'll be really cool. Anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is my job was really fun, and I did enjoy myself working as an engineer. I had a lot of opportunity to learn. I did see a future as an engineer, and I'm not like one of those people who went to do a job and they don't like the job, they couldn't wake up, or they had problems with their colleagues, or they don't find any joy in doing what they do, then they switch to another career or become a photographer. I want to be clear, that's not the case here. I was already building a career as an engineer, and I worked 5 solid years in that geotechnical consultant firm, and I was already investing my future in that company. I'm sure you're gonna ask, hey Robin, if you're happy being an engineer, then why did you quit? Why are you a photographer now? It's not a simple question to answer. I did not just quit my engineering career just so that I could become a photographer. There were a lot of things that happened in between. There were a lot of events that led me to leave my engineering career behind. Now we need to go back a little bit to the moment where I got my first DSLR, the Olympus E410, and subsequently the E520. After I got these cameras, my obsession with photography grew even deeper. I would go out in the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, and started doing shutter therapy sessions. I'll probably do a podcast series to talk about what shutter therapy means and how I started coining the phrase and using it and what it means to me and why it is so important to me. So I did my weekend photography. It can be anything. I can do insect macro, I can do portrait photography, I can do anything. I'll shoot fashion shows or just random landscapes in the city. Anything. I'll just do anything that I can with the camera every single weekend with new photographs, and every time I will update my blog with a new entry. Can you imagine from the year 2008, 2009, 2010, 2 to 3 years consistently week after week, I have new content with the Olympus camera. Without fail, new photographs, and I share my experience of how I got these photographs. I talk about my photography journey. Somehow, I got noticed by Olympus. I guess that's bound to happen, right? I never claimed to be a great photographer. I was still a hobbyist. Looking back now, those photographs are quite bad. I'm just being honest. But I got noticed by Olympus Malaysia. And sometime in 2010, I think it was 2010. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, you'll see some correction text on the screen. I got approached by Olympus and said, hey Robin, we noticed your work. Would you like to review our upcoming camera? It is not launched yet. I was like, whoa, yes, of course. It was the DSLR E5. So I reviewed the E5, and to my surprise, it was a huge success. It was shared in photography forums, it was discussed everywhere, and I got hundreds of comments from that review. And just overnight, suddenly I look at my work on my blog and my photography like, wow, this actually meant something bigger than I thought it would be, right? So then I thought this could have a separate future. That incident sparked that thought and that possibility that I can pursue a different path if I want to, but I didn't want yet. I didn't want it badly yet at that time. So this was in 2010, 2011. I still kept being involved with Olympus Malaysia more and more. And of course, at the same time, I already started taking photography jobs in the weekends as well. Knowing Malaysia, being an engineer, especially junior engineer, when you just started working out 1 to 2 years, your salary is pathetic. I'm going to review my starting salary. It's 2,000 ringgit. 2,000 ringgit is about 500 US dollars. 500 US dollars for a month. What can you do? You probably can't even pay rent in the US. Here, after I've paid my rent, after I've paid my bills, I barely had enough to feed myself. I know I'm like one of those millennials who complain about the money is not enough, where you spend too much money on expensive clothing, on smartphones, on gadgets that's not necessary, but I did not. I was never a person to spend money on unnecessary things, and still it was not enough, and I have parents to feed back home. So it was difficult. It was a difficult time for me. So the engineering salary was not enough. Of course, all starting salaries, not just engineering in Malaysia, if you're working as an accountant, lawyer, any jobs out there, the starting salary after graduation from university is really pathetic. To supplement that, to survive, I had to find alternative source of income. And it just happens that I have a DSLR and I have the skills to take photographs. And people around me started to get married and they all come to me and say, "Hey Robin, can you take photographs of our wedding?" So I started taking a few jobs, charging very minimal, just a few hundred ringgit. And I get more and more and more requests weekend after weekend, and it became a regular thing. So I thought, okay, now that I'm a weekend warrior, and I'm not complaining because I need the money, right? Like I said, I didn't have enough money to survive, and that supplemental income from my side hustle as a freelance photographer was really, really necessary. So I started doing photography jobs. I got involved with Olympus Malaysia. I guess it's not difficult to see where this slowly leads my life out of the engineering career. Sometime in 2013, Olympus Malaysia approached me and said, "Hey Robin, would you like to join us?" I have to say, at that time, I was surprised. I was stunned, and of course I said yes. But looking back, it wasn't really a big shock. It wasn't completely unexpected because I had all the necessary skills. I knew the Olympus products inside out. I knew the menu system. I can shoot with the camera. I was a photographer. I was already doing photography professionally, taking in jobs as a weekend warrior. I had a blog where I talk about Olympus cameras. I talk about photography in general. I have an audience. I can connect with an audience, and I can speak about photography and I can talk about cameras. I've proven this many times before, and looking back, I was really right for the role. And I thought, wow, here is someone who actually came out to look for me, and I can actually fit into the role perfectly. Versus the job that I was still doing. Yes, I enjoyed my job as an engineer, but in that office, there were hundreds other engineers besides me, and everyone can do what I do. Whatever that I did, anyone can learn to do within a year or two. As an engineer, of course, I didn't really have any unique capabilities. I didn't have anything that I can say, only I can do it, no one else can do it. And you know what? I was replaceable. And as sad as that sounds, that's just what engineers are. You need to follow the rules, you need to follow the protocols. You can't break the rules, because if you do, then the buildings fall down and people die. So because you have to follow the protocol, you need to follow the rules, all the designs are the same. And everything that you do, there are different challenges and risks involved, but the approach, the way that you analyze and design for structures or to stabilize the ground or for foundation or anything that I do for that geotechnical engineering work, they were basically the same. Anyone can learn and do it. And we are not lack of engineers in Malaysia. There were just too many engineers, right? Perhaps more engineers than photographers around. And I was presented an opportunity to be involved with something completely different. It was scary. I have to admit, I was a little bit worried because it was a completely different world, but it was a role that not many people can fit into. You may be a photographer, but you don't have an audience. You can't speak very well. Or you may know the product really well, but you can't shoot that well. Or you may be someone who can teach really well, but you don't do or practice whatever that you teach that well, right? So I have a little bit of skill in every different area, and when you put them all together, it was really interesting. It was as if the role was meant for me. So of course, I jumped over and I joined Olympus Malaysia, and I left the engineering career behind. It wasn't a difficult choice. There were a few other reasons. The obvious ones: salary. The pay for engineering in Malaysia is shit. Of course, you need to work your way out, being a senior, maybe being the director or manager. I don't know. It will take 5 years, 10 years more before I get to a place where I don't have to worry about money anymore. But it was a long climb, and money is constantly a problem. I had to work really hard in the weekends as a weekend warrior for my freelance photography to supplement my income. And I really got very, very tired of doing that because my main job as an engineer, I didn't earn enough. And now I've given another job where I was the one who can do it really well versus an engineer where everyone else can do the job. And I got paid even more to do that. I think it was a no-brainer that I would pick this, right? And not only that, I think one complaint that I have during my engineering career was that it never ends. The jobs just keeps coming and coming and coming, one project after another. If you complete a project and the boss will say, good job, here's a new project. I didn't really have enough time to breathe, and there was no sense of fulfillment. I enjoyed the job, yes. I love what I was doing, but there was no satisfaction. It's not like after you've completed a wedding shoot, or I don't know, after you've done something, there's no sense of closure or satisfaction after each job. And it's very hard for me to explain being an engineer, because all you have to do is just take on another job, another job, another job. It just, the process never ends. It went on and on and on. And I was a little bit tired of that. So now I have an opportunity to start over, to see where my contributions and my talents truly matter, and I can contribute to something that can make a real difference in a different world. I thought, let's do it. Let's take this opportunity. So I was the product specialist for Olympus Malaysia from 2013 to 2017. I'm sure some of you will ask, hey Robin, how about the third option? Quit your engineering job. Don't join Olympus and be a full-time photographer. I did not consider that because I was not ready. That's just an honest answer. I knew I was getting a lot of jobs in the weekends, but if I were to truly sit down and plan out the business and see if I get enough clients to sustain me going full-time as a photographer, I can honestly tell you that it will not work out, at least not yet at that time when I quit my engineering career. I needed a few more years to build myself, my network, my platform before I can confidently stand on my own 2 feet. That's where Olympus came in. A lot of people will say, wow, Robin, you got your dream job. You are in Olympus. You have reviewed Olympus cameras before, and now you're hired as an employee. You're working from the inside. Yes, in some ways, it is dream come true. I have unlimited access to any cameras and lenses that I want. But here is the sad part. I have no time to use them. You see, working for Olympus, I was an employee, right? I was in the sales and marketing department, and I had to be in the office from 8 to 5 from Mondays to Fridays. So then you say, hey, you still have Saturdays and Sundays, you can go out and shoot. But do you realize that most consumer events or any activities usually happen in the weekends? Any workshops, photo walks, product launches, touch and try events, anything. And sometimes it's not just with the consumers, right? We also have events with photographers, we have events with the media people, we have events with the dealers, the camera sellers, and it's just, a lot of things happen in the weekends, and I was technically working from Mondays to Sundays for that 4 years. Now, don't get me wrong, again, I enjoy what I do. I really do, and perhaps a little bit more than what I did in my engineering career. In my Olympus work, at least there was a sense of fulfillment, at least there was satisfaction, because whatever I did for Olympus, it was unique and it matters. And my contribution actually made a difference. And I actually knew this is a place where what I say matters, what I did matters, and the photos that I take were actually used, put in good use, what I meant. And it was a really fulfilling time of my life. Don't get me wrong. It's just that from that perspective, it does seem like it's a dream job. Overall, it's not, because as a photographer, as a person deeply passionate and still obsessed with photography, that obsession never went away, by the way, the one that started many years ago in university. As a person still deeply obsessed with photography, not having the time to shoot or not having enough time to shoot, it eats me alive. I hope that makes sense, right? So, of course, after working 2 to 3 years in Olympus, I realized that I can't go on forever. As much as I enjoy the work, meeting with photographers, meeting consumers, meeting other Olympus users, meeting like-minded people, increasing my network, and and keep contributing and doing what really matters. And I get that sense that I was appreciated. I was loved in that community. And I really like that. That's why I stayed there for many, many years. But I knew that not shooting enough will kill me eventually. So I did what I can to build my network. I save out enough money, buffer just in case something goes wrong. And I really prepared myself to take on the role of a full-time photographer when I was working for Olympus. I knew that this is what I want to do. It became even more clear because being in Olympus, I was thinking about photography and camera day in and day out. So that vision of being a full-time photographer became more and more obvious, right? It became clearer. So yeah, in 2017, I talked to my manager and said, hey, you know what, it's time. And even my manager looked at me and said, yeah, we knew that we couldn't keep you. We knew that this is what you wanted to do. Everyone knows. If you know me, you know that I love photography. You know that I want to shoot. And when I'm not shooting, I'm not happy. So I had to go. So I left Olympus. We left in good terms. Nothing bad happened. Even after I left Olympus in 2017, I was still heavily involved with them. I helped the team to do more workshops. I helped them with the consumer events. And they even invited me back as the Olympus Visionary in 2018, if I remember correctly. And even now, I'm still an Olympus Visionary, even after the company has been bought by JIP. So looking back now, it was a long-winded story. I hope I haven't bored you to death. I started as an engineer, then Olympus Malaysia approached me because of my heavy involvement with them doing reviews. And of course, I have a blog talking about Olympus cameras. And I worked for Olympus. And while I was in Olympus Malaysia, I prepared myself financially, mentally, and of course, I built my network to have enough clients to sustain my business as I left Olympus. Then in 2017 until now, currently, I am a full-time photographer. I think you guys know the rest of the stories, right? I'm a full-time photographer now. In the beginning, it was a struggle. In 2017 and 2018, I was still finding my footing. There were months I get a lot of shoots. There were months that I barely got 2 or 3 shoots, and it wasn't easy to survive, but I managed to pull through. I didn't make any losses. I didn't make a lot of money in my first year, but steadily in 2018, 2019, the business grew. And actually in 2020, last year, beginning of last year, before the pandemic hits, before all this lockdown craziness all over the world, I managed to secure some really large contracts for my photography jobs. And I was very proud to have achieved that in such a short amount of time. And I thought it would take me maybe 5 years to get there, but these are really large contracts. And there were hints or there were signs that I will be getting even more of such similar jobs if the pandemic didn't hit. But unfortunately, all these contracts and all these jobs will have to be postponed, or some of them have to be cancelled. Some I get a little bit of refund, some I didn't get anything, and that's perfectly fine. It's no one's fault. It's not the client's fault. It's not my fault. We can't blame anyone, and I can't blame the pandemic either. The virus is not, they don't have any conscience, right? So there's no one to blame. Things happen. So currently, I have to put my photography career on hold. Unfortunately, that's the reality. Yes, I still consider myself a full-time photographer, but I'm not shooting. I'm stuck in my room for more than 3 months now. And looking at Malaysians' cases, COVID cases, it keeps climbing. Now we have like 20,000 average cases daily, new case infections. It's just, at the rate of things going, I think for the rest of the year, I'll be stuck in this room. I will get 0 jobs until I don't know when to come. But I have struggled so much. I've spent so much time, effort. I've worked so hard to get where I was, and I'm not going to give up. And I knew that I had a future, and everything worked out so well just before the pandemic. And I know that when all this is over, things will get back to normal, but it may not be easy. I may need to start from the start again, from 0, but at least I know it works. I know that there's a future being a professional photographer. And during that 2017, 2018, 2019, during my years as a full-time photographer, I was free. I use the camera, I shoot almost every single day. Either I'm shooting jobs or I'm doing my own shutter therapy sessions, right? At that time, I didn't have a YouTube channel yet. I take more photographs to update on my blog, and I wrote for Ming Tian for a period of time, and I updated my new photographs in Ming Tian's blog. It was such a great time of my life, and I hope that I can continue to live that, to do what I love to do, to shoot as long as I'm shooting anything. Honestly, right? Currently, I'm doing, of course, not currently, but before the pandemic, I was doing wedding photography, portraits photography. I was doing event coverage. I was doing stage photography, shooting live concerts, music. I was doing lifestyle products, lifestyle portraits, a little bit of food photography. I do everything, right? So if I have to, I can jump into wildlife photography, photojournalism, anything. As long as with camera, I'm up to it. Whatever it is, as long as it involves photography, I know deep in my heart I can do it, and I will make it work. Having said that, I was also very, very fortunate to have started this YouTube channel. I think I've talked about this, so I will not take too much time going through this here. The YouTube channel I started sometime in the middle of 2019, and it took a while for it to grow, but as the pandemic hits, in 2020, it has grown to a point where I knew there's a future, there's another path I can take as a content creator. I never intended to make so many videos and publish on my YouTube. And you know what? I had no choice, because as my professional photography jobs get less and less, and I don't get much income from there, I need to supplement my income from somewhere else. And it happens that as the YouTube grows, I get a little bit more money from the AdSense, the Google Ads, from the ads revenue. I also get a little bit more income from contributions from you guys, those of you who are really generous to buy me coffee or contributed directly to my PayPal. Thank you so much. You have no idea how much this means to me. You have sustained me for the past 1.5 years. And at this time being, I'm not asking for more. Whatever I earn from YouTube and from PayPal or affiliate links from Amazon, B&H, and especially from coffee money, right? Whatever that I earn from this content creation platform is enough to sustain me. I'm not spending crazy amount of money because I'm stuck in my room. I'm not going out. There's nothing much money that I can throw around. So pretty much whatever that I earn is enough to sustain me and keep me alive. I'm very thankful for that. But looking further down the road, I really wish and I really hope and I will do my best to recover my photography business. And I know brighter days are ahead. That's all I have to share about my life story, how I started with photography, how it evolved from a hobby to an obsession and then to a full-time career, and how I left my engineering career behind. I hope that you see there is no bad blood between me and the engineering world. I didn't hate being an engineer. I would have continued on being an engineer, and there's no point questioning what ifs, because who knows, it can be better, it can be worse. There might be 10,000 possibilities out there that is infinite, and there's no point asking myself or questioning my past decisions. I think what's best is if you are presented with an opportunity, you assess the risks and the rewards and the potential gains that you can get from that opportunity, and you go for it if you have decided. Once you have decided, live with your decision, go on with it, do your best. Whatever that you have, just do your best. And I'm sure things will work out. I'm not saying that it will be easy. There will be challenges. Some things may not work your way, but I think it's the same for whichever decision that you take. Risks will always be there, and you don't know what will happen along the way. Some accidents may happen. A lot of things cannot be predicted, so the best thing is to decide whatever that you think is best at the moment with whatever available information that you have at hand, and then move on and never look back. And continue to strive to be better and improve yourself. I think that's a good advice that I can give to anyone, not just for photographers or any career. I hope that you've enjoyed my sharing and learned a little bit more about myself. I think you can see a lot of my engineering fingerprints all over my camera reviews, or the way I write my blog articles, or how I structure my YouTube videos. I still see myself as an engineer. And that's not going to change. It's in my DNA now, and it's how I approach life as well, how I approach risks and manage them. I don't think my story is anything spectacular or anything more than ordinary, but it is my story, and I believe it is unique. And who knows, maybe one day I will publish a book about it. If you want to see more content in this channel, please consider buying me a cup of coffee, or you can contribute directly to my PayPal. Links in the description below on how you can do that. Any small contribution goes a long way, will help me to make new content and publish them right here. And of course, to keep me alive as well during this lockdown. Please also like, subscribe, share, and comment, and I'll definitely see you again in the next one. Until then, stay safe and take more photographs if you can. Bye-bye.